Well, welcome, dear listeners, to a new immersion into the unknown, into the depths of mystery. Today, we are going to delve into an enigma that has fascinated the world for decades: the life and prophecies of Baba Vanga, the Nostradamus of the Balkans. A figure certainly shrouded in an aura of mystery, venerated by many and, well, questioned by others, but undoubtedly unforgettable. Indeed, Baba Vanga, a woman who, from her humble beginnings in Bulgaria, captivated the world with her surprising predictions, but who was she really? Were her visions a divine gift or a dark influence? Did her prophecies really come true, or are they mere coincidences or even manipulations? To unravel this enigma, we must start at the beginning. Vanga's childhood, marked by poverty and an event that would change her life forever. Right, let's talk about that difficult childhood. She was born premature, lost her mother at a very young age, and her father fought in World War I. A complicated start, right? Undoubtedly, but the turning point came with that mysterious tornado that swept her through the air, leaving her blind. Some attribute it to a natural phenomenon, others to something more inexplicable. The truth is that after this event, Vanga began to experience visions and develop abilities that would turn her into a legend. It's fascinating how such a traumatic event could be connected to the development of her alleged abilities. Do you think that experience made her more receptive to the invisible, to perceive the world in a different way? It's an intriguing possibility. Perhaps the trauma opened a door to other dimensions, to a special sensitivity that allowed her to glimpse the future. Or perhaps, as a coping mechanism, her mind created an alternative reality where she could find answers and comfort. Be that as it may, during World War II, her fame spread like wildfire. People came to her seeking comfort, news of their loved ones missing in the war, and even predictions about the future. It is said that Tsar Boris III of Bulgaria himself visited her seeking advice. A detail that undoubtedly adds an aura of mystery to her figure. However, not everyone was convinced of her powers. The Orthodox Church, for example, accused her of receiving her visions from demonic forces. That accusation from the Church introduces an almost diabolical element into the story, a divine gift or a dark influence. The line that separates both concepts is sometimes very thin. How can we discern between one and the other? It's a complex debate. Some believe that the line separating clairvoyance from demonic influence is blurred, that the source of visions can be ambiguous. Others consider that the goodness or evil of the seer's actions is the key to discerning their origin. So, to better understand the nature of Baba Vanga's visions, we must analyze her prophecies. Some of them are chillingly accurate, like the one about the 9/11 attacks. The fall of the American brothers after the attack of the Steel Birds, she said. How is it possible that she described such a terrible event with such accuracy? That's the question that intrigues so many. It's true that this prediction, like the Chernobyl disaster or the dissolution of the Soviet Union, gave her great credibility. But it's also important to remember that many of her prophecies turned out to be false. Of course, like the 1994 World Cup final between two teams starting with B or World War III in 2010, how can we then reconcile her successes with her failures? There could have been some kind of manipulation in the dissemination of her prophecies, exaggerating the successes and hiding the failures. It's a possibility we can't rule out. Let's not forget that there is no written documentation of her prophecies. Everything is based on testimonies and stories transmitted orally, which opens the door to misrepresentation and the creation of myths. That leads us to a fundamental question. What part of Baba Vanga's story is real and what part is legend? That's the key to the enigma. Perhaps we will never know for sure, but what we do know is that Baba Vanga continues to fascinate the world, even decades after her death. That fascination, that persistence in the collective imagination, tells us a lot about human nature. What do you mean? The yearning to understand the unknown, to find meaning in chaos, to believe that there is something beyond our limited perception. It's true, we all seek answers, a guide in the darkness. And in that sense, Baba Vanga's prophecies, although sometimes obscure and terrifying, also offer us a glimmer of hope. Exactly, they tell us about surprising scientific advances such as the arrival of extraterrestrials in 2025 or the development of telepathy. Possibilities that open the mind to new horizons, to a future where humanity could transcend its current limits. A future that, according to Baba Vanga, would also be marked by great challenges. A global economic crisis in 2024, a terrorist attack in Europe, disturbing predictions that resonate strongly in the current context. It's inevitable to feel a chill when we hear these predictions and see how some events seem to fit the puzzle. Coincidence, premonition, perhaps we will never know for sure, but the doubt, the uncertainty, is part of the mystery that surrounds Baba Vanga. And that uncertainty is what keeps us captivated, because while some of her prophecies seem far-fetched, others come so close to reality that they make us question our own perception of the world. That's the power of prophecies, their ability to sow doubt, to make us reflect on the fragility of our existence and on the course humanity is taking. Do you think Baba Vanga could really see the future? Or is it a clever interpretation of the social and political trends of her time? It's a difficult question to answer. Some argue that Baba Vanga possessed a special sensitivity, an ability to connect with a source of superior knowledge. As if she were a channel, a receiving antenna for information coming from another dimension. Exactly. Others, however, believe that her predictions are based on a keen ability to observe, on the interpretation of the signs of her time, on intuition, and on a deep understanding of human nature. Perhaps a combination of both. A natural talent amplified by her life experience, by her ability to connect with people, to read their fears and hopes. It's a possibility. Let's not forget that Baba Vanga rubbed shoulders with political leaders, scientists, artists. Through her conversations, she could obtain privileged information, perceive the underground currents that moved the world. And from that information, weave her prophecies, adapting them to the symbolic and enigmatic language that characterizes them. A language that leaves room for interpretation, for reinterpretation, in light of events. And it is precisely this ambiguity that contributes to its endurance, to its ability to resonate through time. Because each generation can find in Baba Vanga's prophecies a reflection of their own anxieties, their own fears and hopes. It's true. And in that sense, Baba Vanga becomes a mirror of humanity, a reflection of our eternal search for answers, of our yearning to understand the destiny that awaits us. A destiny that, according to her, would be marked by a crucial event, the beginning of the end of times in 2025. A prediction that chills our blood and forces us to reflect on the future we are building. Are we in time to change the course of events? Or is destiny already written? That's the big question, the enigma that Baba Vanga leaves us. And although we don't have definitive answers, the mere fact of asking ourselves these questions already invites us to become aware of our individual and collective responsibility in building the future. Because in the end, beyond the veracity or falsity of her prophecies, Baba Vanga's legacy reminds us that the future is not predetermined, that it is we, with our actions and decisions, who are shaping it day by day. And that is an idea that, regardless of whether we believe in her visions or not, is worth keeping in mind. A future that is largely in our hands. But going back to Baba Vanga and her supposed abilities, how can we explain her successes? Did she really have access to information that is inaccessible to the rest of us? That's the million-dollar question. And as we've discussed, there's no single answer. Some researchers point to the possibility that Baba Vanga possessed an extraordinary ability for observation and deduction. Do you mean she was a kind of Sherlock Holmes of divination, capable of extracting crucial information from seemingly insignificant details? Exactly. It is said that she was very perceptive, able to detect subtle changes in body language, tone of voice, and facial expressions of people. And from those clues, build a story, a prediction, that seemed to come from supernatural knowledge. It's fascinating. But that ability doesn't explain her predictions about large-scale future events, like the fall of the Berlin Wall or the 2004 tsunami. In those cases, some resort to the theory of suggestion. They argue that Baba Vanga, with her charisma and aura of mystery, could influence people, implanting in them the idea that her predictions would come true. A kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. If people believe that something is going to happen, they can unconsciously act in a way that contributes to that event materializing. It's a complex concept, but it has its logic. Let's not forget the confirmation bias, the human tendency to remember the predictions that come true and to forget the ones that don't, creating a false image of infallibility. Undoubtedly. In Baba Vanga's case, that image was reinforced by the lack of written documentation of her prophecies. Everything is based on oral stories, transmitted from generation to generation, which facilitates distortion and mythification. So, what can we conclude about Baba Vanga? Was she a genuine prophet, a skilled manipulator, or simply an exceptional woman who knew how to connect with the deepest yearnings of the human being? Perhaps the answer lies at the intersection of those three possibilities. Baba Vanga was a product of her time, of a social and political context that favored belief in the supernatural. But she was also a woman with a special gift, a unique sensitivity that allowed her to perceive the world in a different way. And she knew how to use that gift, along with her charisma and her cunning, to build a legacy that endures to this day. An enigmatic, fascinating, and controversial legacy that invites us to reflect on the nature of prophecy, on the fragility of our knowledge, and on the eternal search of the human being to understand the unknown. And beyond the answers, Baba Vanga's legacy leaves us with a series of disturbing questions that resonate strongly in today's world. Are we really in control of our destiny? Or are we mere puppets in the hands of chance or forces that escape our understanding? Questions that each of us must answer for ourselves. What is certain is that Baba Vanga's world, with its mix of mystery, prophecy, and reality, reminds us that truth often hides in the most unexpected places. And that sometimes, the most important truth is not found in the answer, but in the questions we ask ourselves. And with that final reflection, dear listeners, we come to the end of our immersion into the enigma of Baba Vanga. We hope that this journey has been as fascinating for you as it has been for us. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, you would help me a lot if you subscribed to the channel and gave it a like. And don't forget to leave a comment. I love reading your opinions and suggestions to continue creating content that you like. Until next